relations, further the law defines the rights and liability of an individual. Law which puts the restrictions on the person in the form of, rights. As in keeping in view of that, to understand very perfectly, the law, the few of an authors in the political science have given definition. It's a very, very important. The definitions are very, very important. Within that, I'll tell you the names of the persons. You have to remember this. If you could put down, if you could note it down, that also be very important for writing an examination. The first definition, according to T. Holland, the number, the person's name T. E. Holland, Holla, Holland. He defines the law is a general rule of external human action enforced by a sovereign political authority. Okay. A general rule of external human action enforced by a sovereign political authority could be the one of the definitions of the law. What is that meaning of the definitions here? A సాధారణమైనటువంటి రూల్ ఎవరైతే వ్యక్తి యొక్క ప్రవర్తనను కంట్రోల్ చేయడానికి యూస్ చేసేటటువంటి రాజ్యాధికారమే లా అంటారు ఇక్కడ. The state which uses a sovereign authority to control the external behavior of human in the state. Anything which is related to controlling part, it can become a law. This was the first definition. If you take other definition, according to Woodrow Wilson, I think he is a father of public administration. Woodrow Wilson is a father of, public administration, who invented is one of the social science in the 1890s after. So according to Woodrow Wilson, what is the law? Law is the portion of established thought and habit which has gained distinct and formal recognition in the form of uniform rules backed by authority and power of government. So this is it has a wider meaning to understand the Woodrow Wilson, the meaning of law. What he has said in the meaning of law: law is a portion of established thought and habit which has gained distinct and formal recognition in the form of uniform rules. And law is nothing but which it kept it as a uniform rules to everyone in order to, in order to implementation by the government of a state. ఒక గవర్నమెంట్ చేసేటటువంటి క్రమబద్ధీకరమైనటువంటి చట్టాలు కావచ్చు, క్రమబద్ధీకరమైనటువంటి ఒక లాస్ కావచ్చు, వాటన్నిటినీ కూడా లా అనే పేరుతో పిలుస్తాడంటాడు వుడ్రో విల్సన్. Anything which is related to the matter of making and something, laws, okay. So as in a formal laws in a very strict manner, that it shall be comes under the purview of law according to the definition of Woodrow Wilson. And also the same term T.H. Green also says that the meaning of a law is that law is a system of rights and obligations which the state enforces. Law, it's nothing but it is a system of obligation, isn't it? It's a system of obligation which you can understand truly that in order to control the behavior of a people, isn't it? So as I wanted to say here is that in the law, as all the three definitions, has becomes an very, very important. And also you can see that Harold J. Lasky has given the definitions about in law. You can read an R.G. Gettil also has observed the meaning of the law and all of them. So if you could see the characteristics and nature of law, what is the characteristics of the law? Where you can, how do you understand that? Characteristics of the law is, and majorly it is an universal, and it is in a nature of to put some restrictions, rules. Yes. Yeah. So the law which has its own characteristics, if you could see the law of, this. Okay. Law generally it is enforced by the state, isn't it? The law is always, it protects a human being. These are all the three, I mean, first, second, third, and fourth, and all of them, which it can be considered as an, I mean, nature of the states. What I have, I mean, said that. Generally, if you could see the, and laws are being developed. If you could see the sources of the law, like see, for example, we used to withdraw the law system from the custom, means what we have in the past 100 years ago, and we, I mean, taken in this law system from religion. See, for example, every custom has its own kind of an law. Say, for example, at the time of marriage, if you could see the certain restrictions we put to the bride and bridegroom, isn't it? At the time of customs, I mean, సాంప్రదాయాలు ఆచార వ్యవహారాలు ఉన్నటువంటి సందర్భంలో, and bride and bridegroom we kept inside the home and in the before the marriage, because we protect them. These are restrictions which family members will put down. You should not supposed to come out of the home. It's a kind of restrictions what we see is that, isn't it? So custom and usage, one of them in sources that we can make the laws over here. Similarly, the religion. See, for example, if you could see the one, there is a certain restrictions and differ from one religion to another religion. Say, for example, in a Hindu religions, if you could see that there are some laws. Say, for example, at the time of festivals, you should not supposed to eat meat. Okay, it's a kind of a restriction. Anything which is comes under the restriction, that it shall be treated as an, I mean, law. See, religions also is one of the source that we have learned something, that what to do, what not to do at the time of, I mean, holy times and all of them. So these kind of a things just makes us to understand the sources of law. We started to practicing it, and also at the same time, adjudications are judicial decision. You know that in adjudications and judicial decisions, if you could see in the, we had, I mean, in the past, in the if you could see, uh, go back to the 100 years ago of an India's, and there was some dynasties which is ruled to India. How many dynasties which ruled to India? Can anybody tell the one of the names of the dynasty which ruled to India? Is it my voice is audible to everyone? Can anybody tell me that? Okay, what are the dynasties of rule in India? Is this my voice is audible to everyone? Can't say anyone? Huh. You speak out, yeah. At least you once you speak up, then I can understand you are still even listening. Yes, of course. Ashoka, Mughal, okay, Delhi Sultanate. We have a number of dynasties we have had it. If you go back to the dynasties, every dynasties which used to follow the certain rules and regulations. For example, see, at the time of Mughal dynasty, if you could take it as an, I mean, Aurangzeb's time, there was a system that no one should celebrate a festival without intimation to the king. No one should celebrate an, at least a party at home without intimations to the king. There should be intimation, then after the one can do the festival. There is nothing and wrong in that. It's somebody who put down. Uh, somebody and put down, I mean, somebody who celebrate the functions, that it should be treated as a kind of an, I mean, taboo within the time of Mughal dynasties, as you have said, the Aurangzeb. Similarly, in the Prithviraj Chauhan and Chauhan dynasty, if you could see the Rajput dynasty, it was in the Rajput dynasty, there is a rule that if any female baby born, there is a female infanticide used to take place in the dynasty, isn't it? So as we had certain adjudications and certain decisions, as we used to practice in the past at the time of dynasty's ruling. Similarly, if you could see that a scientific commentaries, we too have a certain things. Say, so for example, in a tribal time, okay, there was a scientific commentaries which we have through the systems. Also, we used to follow the certain kinds of rules and regulations. For example, at the time of birth, at the time of death, people should not supposed to come out of the home, isn't it? And these kind of a rule. So as we have a certain things over that, and scientific commentaries would become one of the sources of the law to implement that. Equity in legislation. See, when we came in, I mean, independent, when we become independent India, we used to started in making of a certain legislature, certain laws by the legislature. Today, if you could see, the Indian government, I mean, the Parliament of India have made it certain laws through the legislative process, isn't it? So all these things are sources of law which we can understand. On the grounds of the sources of law, which you could divide it in types of the laws also. How many types of the laws we have? Natural and positive law, national and international laws, constitutional and ordinary laws, private and public laws, civil and criminal laws. We do have a number of, I mean, laws which it can, I mean, trigger to understand the kinds of laws. What does it mean, natural law and positive law? Natural law is based on the human reason about ultimate purpose to human existence, which is given and created by the God. Any law which is created by the God, that it shall be treated as a natural law. Say, for example, you have given an a birth. It's a kind of a law. You know that a positive laws are the laws which is man-made statutory. Any law which is prepared as artificially, that it shall be comes under the purview of a positive law. Similarly, if any laws been I mean made it in the but state sovereignty, sovereign authority for the national development for the national law purpose, that it shall be treated as an, I mean, national law, isn't it? For example, any law which has been prepared for the international law regulates. If any law which has been and regulated in the internationally and every nation's behavior across the world, that it shall comes under the purview of an international law. So we do have similarly all these laws, constitutional, ordinary, private and public laws, and civils and criminal laws. All these laws has becomes very, very important. And also at the same time that we need to understand law is a body which makes us some rules and regulations, isn't it? Today, if you go to the, I mean, as university prepared the laws in general terms, and you should write an examination. Without writing an exam, you can't pass it, isn't it? Can anybody pass the examination? Can anybody get the degree? Can anybody get the degree after passing it? It means no, there is no chance of to uh, getting degree without writing exam. So university have prepared a laws in order to, I mean, passing of degree. Similarly, anything which it can come under the purview of a strict regulation, that it shall be called it as a law, isn't it? So as what is a morality? Law and morality, what is the first we try to understand the difference between the law and morality. Morality is that in the moral grounds, when the things which is not mandatory, okay, to practice, that it shall comes under the moral principles. Anything, any law which is make it as a very mandatory, that it shall comes under the purview of a law. Law and morality, morality is a flexible, law is rigid. So if you see the true differences between the morality and law, you can go to the page number 12. There is a box which you can understand the difference between law and morality. All of you have the books with you right away? Do you have the books?
Yes, sir.
If you see in the page number 5, there is a tabular form and which makes us to understand the difference between law and morality. What is law here? Constitutional acts of man and not motives. When you see the morality concerned with both the external and acts and internal motives. Any law which does not see an external, I mean, an internal things. If law it's been prepared by the state, one has to accept it. Say, for example, as if a state prepared fundamental right, the fundamental rights are applied to at the time of when a person is not in suffering from fever. Okay, and if the rights are only applicable to person when person is unhealthy, is such kind of the things which we see is in India? No. Law is, if you consider the fundamental rights are is a law which is prepared by the legislature, that it should commonly, irrespective of the discrimination, irrespective of the status of individual, would be given to the, I mean, would be provided to the each and everyone without having any constraints and distance. There is no certain barriers. There is no certain restrictions to the person to follow the law, isn't it? But what I mean to say, the morality, the law, the morality which it can consider the external and internal motives of the person, isn't it? If you are, say, for example, the company have made it a law, At the time of when a company also which works on the law which is also prepared for a company employees, when employees is sick, okay, is unable to do the work, when he is suffering from certain chronic diseases, the company will give excuse to them, isn't it? So this is a law which is makes in morality. If the laws are being prepared on the grounds of a morality, that it should be flexible, that it should be, not and mandatorily. When law which is under it is irrespective of the thing, that it should not affected by any sort of an internal and external motives. You know that a law is always a concern of the state, and the law which is developed by the state, not by the person here. When you see the moral is a concern of conscience of the individual. Morality is always is an, see, for example, if a beggar who lays just beside of the road, he's in a thrust, he's waiting to get the food from anybody, isn't it? And your conscience that మీరు ఇవ్వాలని అనుకుంటే ఇస్తారు, ఇవ్వక ఇవ్వద్దు అని అనుకున్నప్పుడు ఇవ్వరు, isn't it? ఇచ్చినా ఏమవ్వదు, ఇవ్వకపోయినా ఏమవ్వదు, isn't it? Which means, and if you are able to give that, that doesn't happen. If you are not able to give it, doesn't happen. See, the law, if you do not practice of a state, that is going to become unpunishable. For example, see, if a state has put restrictions that and you should not supposed to go out when you are suffering from COVID chronic infection. ఒకవేళ మీరు బయటకు వచ్చారనుకోండి, ఎవరైనా చూసారనుకోండి, that law it's made by the state that you punish that. So as if you could see morality, it's a conscience. Okay, మీ ఆత్మ సాక్షి, లేకపోతే మీరు మనస్సాక్షిగా, these are all the conscience which comes out. Whether you follow, if you wish to follow, you can follow. If you do not wish to follow, you cannot follow. There would not be a certain levels of punishment, but there should be a stringent law that one should be practiced. Okay, and if you do not practice, there would be a punishment. Well, morality, if you moral principle, if you do not practice it, is there any chance to get the punishment? No, not at all, because it is a moral principle. And also at the same time, law is concerned with the part of the man's life. Morality is concerned with the whole of man's life. Okay. The way of your thinking, the way of your, thought process, which isn't, surprisingly, it is with you all the life. But when laws are is a part of life. For example, see, every human cannot makes it and is alive on the grounds of laws. Say, for example, if I made it a law right from day one, there is no possibility of living. But you know that there are a lot of things, emotions we have. In a human's life, there are many things irrespective of the laws. Laws we have, emotions we have, relations we have, concerns, and all of them that we have. Similarly, in the life of a person, only the law is a part of human's life. But the conscience and the morality is a part of life. Every day you see to that and how to speak to the youngers and how to speak to the elders. That's a part of morality. If you do not know moral, then you can speak anything. Then every day you behave decided by your, moral conscience, isn't it? And the law, if it is violated, you will get the punish. You will be punished. If you violated the morality of a state, you will not get any sort of punishment. And law is precise and it is a precision. You can't disturb it. But it is a vague and indefinite. You can't see clarity of this. So all this law acts within the territory. Morality acts in the universes of the state. Law is based on the expediency. Morality is a context. There is a definite agency to impose the law. There is definite agency to impose morality, isn't it? There is no organization which it can implement the morality. It's a depends upon individual conscience.
Sir, sir, somebody's voice is disturbing, sir.
Please disturbing Mr. Shankar and Teja, please mute your mic. Otherwise, I'll remove you. Okay? Then listen to me. So as we have seen the differences between the law and as, you know that in meaning and features of the law, if you could see, law and the justice, these are all the things which works for the justice of the state, isn't it? So as we have understands about in this law is nothing but on the general grounds is a bunch of rules and regulations, isn't it? We have seen the different names of the laws and types of the laws, which it's seen that, and we have also understand the morality and the laws difference between the one another, isn't it? So all these things can be considered under the parts of this and law. Similarly, in the unit 2, we have another topic that is a liberty. Okay, liberty. And what is a liberty? First, you try to listen the word etymologically. What is the meaning of liberty? Liberty is the word which we have derived from Latin language. A class study or see, liberty is a word which we have derived from Latin language liber. Okay, liber means no constraints and no restraints. Do you understand? Liberty is the second unit. We have a topic. First, you try to understand what is the meaning of liberty. Then after, we will understand entire the lesson. What is the meaning of liberty here? Liberty is a word which we have taken from Latin language. The meaning of liberty is liber. In a Latin, we say liber. Liber means no constraints and no restraints. So having no constraints and having no restraints, which shall be treated as an liberty. If it is becomes an, a group of practice, that it shall become a liberalism. Okay. So if it is a huge practice, that it shall become a liberalism. Let me explain the meaning of liberty and kinds of liberty. What are the ideas of J.S. Mill of liberty? Isn't it? All of them will understand. Just give me 2 minutes, I'll tell you. So see, that I have explained the meaning of liberty. Latin language liber. Liber in the Latin language, the meaning is that no constraints, no restraints. What is the meaning of constraints? Can anybody tell me the meaning of constraints and restraints in a general language?
Liberty means freedom. Liberty means freedom from or absence of restraints, and persons but are considered free. Liberty means freedom.
So as once again, could anybody tell me the meaning of this?
Liberty means freedom. I think liberty means freedom or absence of restraints, and persons may be considered free from liberty.
Okay, good. Restraints means no particular, kind of a rule that you can imply to anybody. Constraints means there is no rule at all. It's everything. It is like flexible, isn't it? You can live your life as your wish, isn't it? So as the liberalism, liberty has become the foremost, exponent, and that it is related to uh, the state. State had developed the liberalism concept and liberty in order to provide a freedom to the every individuals of us. If you could see, there is a meaning of a liberty. If you could see that, generally
Sir, difference between freedom and liberty?
Freedom, if it is going to, giving a more, I'm telling, liberty and freedom, I'm telling. Liberty is the comprehensive word where it does not tells anything which is related to restrictions and constraints. Okay. Where in order to practice the no restrictions and constraints, the state provided a freedom to everybody. Freedom is an menial concept of a liberty, isn't it? Freedom is the thing which is a menial, like say, for example, we have lots of restrictions. In order to overcome such restrictions, there is a freedom. Freedom is a single word, a single connotation, which is makes us to understand no constraints, no, restraints, isn't it? So as in terms of, see, if a more freedom, if it is given to the person, that it brings the connotations to the liberty as a negative liberty. If optimum level of this freedom, if it is enjoyed by the individual of a state, that it shall be called it as a positive, liberty, isn't it? So negative liberty always it makes disturbances to the state. It's a matter of law and order issue of the state. Say, for example, I'll tell you a person. You know, a person cannot behave as his wish against the state, isn't it? Say, for example, you are a citizen of India. Can you, behave against the India? Is that any freedom which is provided to you to speak against the national anthem, to speak against the national, flag, to speak against the national administration? Do you have? Of course, you can express your opinion as you wish to tell it that, but yours, guys, take it up, enjoy. Yeah, yeah, true. Come on, go ahead. If you can't behave, there is no possibility and probability to individual of the state that it can behave against the state, because if you do behave against the state, you will be punished, isn't it? So as the liberty has provided to put, in terms of to lead the life of an individual with a freedom, these freedom in the optimum level can bring in positive, and if it is excessive freedom would be presented in the state as it is called as a negative liberty, isn't it? So as if you could see the kinds of the liberties over here, we have on the grounds of liberty, we have certain types of liberties. What are the types and kinds of the liberties? Let's see here. For example, economic liberty, political liberty, civil liberty. Okay. We have these three things which it can be called it as in kinds of the liberty. See, a person in the country have provided a full freedom to lead his life. Civil liberty, there is a word civil. Civil is nothing but it's the connotations of citizen of the country. Civil is nothing, citizen liberty. It's been provided on each and every individual to speak and to develop the things. Generally, the civil liberty it also consists of the rights and privileges to the state creates and enforce law. One is the freedom of person, freedom of movement, equality before law, secure and private property, freedom of speech and expression, freedom of conscience, freedom of belief and religions, and all of the things this comes in the purview of an. It means a person, whatever he wishes to speak up and whatever he moves to from one another area, he can go. Whatever the lifestyle he wants to enjoy, he can enjoy. But the way of all these things should not bring any sort of an hazardous, isn't it? So you can enjoy your life, you can enjoy your all your civil liberties, but it should not and makes it anything which is against to the state. This all comes into the purview of a civil liberty. Even a J.S. Mill said, John Stuart Mill said, is a Western philosopher, is a Western political thinker, who says that in every individual, whether they belongs to the majority and minority, should be given complete personal liberty. Personal liberty or private liberty, according to Lasky, is the aspects of which the substance is mainly personal to man's self. So, as this word, which makes us to understand that the person, irrespective of the position, irrespective of his status and privilege and leverage, should not be considered, and it can be provided a liberty to each and every individual if he, becomes a man on the earth, isn't it? Political liberty is a liberty which a person can enjoy all the necessity opportunities in the politics. You can contest for the election, you can cast your vote, okay, and you can become a prime minister, you can become a chief minister, you can become a member of legislature, person, anything you can acquire the position of India. So in order to enjoy all the opportunities of the political, that it shall be treated as a political liberty, providing all the liberties to be into the political domain, to enjoy the political domain opportunities. All those things is comes under the political liberty. When it comes to the point of an economic liberty, let's say, for example, the liberty should be provided to the person whatever you want to
in
enjoy.
economic in economic liberty you can do any work, you can do
You
any
can.
company, you can do any work any companies.
You can ask any company, you can earn the money and whatever. But the way of you are doing the work should not
You can
supposed to harm to the state.
you can leave any company. This is called economic liberty. Economic liberty.
It is true. It is true. It is true. It is true. Okay, you can. You have every right to work in any company. You have a right to work, and you have right. You have every right to have an. Earn to work in a company, to earn in any company, and as you can become a richest, and as you can become, anything, as you can opt any sort of profession, there would not be any restrictions to the person in order to enjoy the economical freedom. So as this freedom have provided, and this makes us too important to that, the person can enjoy all opportunities in the domain of economy, isn't it? So as you can say that in generally in general terms, if the economic liberty implies to that.
Sir, why we are not say economic freedom? Sir, why we are not say economic freedom? Durga.
So as rights, you can enjoy, you can do the work and all of them. So as in a summary, liberty is an essence of human life. For example, say, can you live with the restrictions in the state? Is it possible? I need to ask the questions to everybody. Can you live your life all the restrictions? See, you can't leave. You can't live your life with a restriction, isn't it? So, enjoying and to leading your life happily and to enjoying the political liberties and economic liberty, civil liberty, and shall be treated as an, I mean, liberalism, isn't it? All those things is very, very important. Hope you understand all of them. Do you have any doubt regarding the law and liberty? You can ask me the questions right away. Okay, I'll give you the time before ending the class.
Hi, sir.
Sorry, ask me the question.
Hello,
Yeah, please ask me. Yes, please.
sir.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Marxist critique of liberty and freedom is not important in exam point of view, sir.
It is important.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Sir, difference between law and liberty, sir? Yeah. Sir? Ayyo. Sir? Sir?
Hello. Sir. Hello. 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 Hmm?